we're going to be doing in the calendar in the second video is we're going to be adding an appointment for an event or task. Before we do that, we need to select somebody from the drop-down list, and I pre-selected Lucy Mays. Now what happens is when I'm in Lucy Mays' record, as opposed to, say, like for example the administrator, you can see that it will go into her calendar and not the administrator's. So let's go down here and look at Lucy. Clears out the area. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a calendar event for her, which is an appointment. So let's go ahead and click on the plus sign over here with the green circle. I'm going to bring the screen over. Now on the iPad, this screen would not be shown where it pops up. It would just pop up right in the same area as where the other portion of the calendar was at. Let's kind of go ahead and look at what's available in this screen. The first thing from top left to the bottom is that we have a close button, which is the only way to close this screen. There is no checkbox or anything that we can use in order to exit this screen. This is called a modal screen, and what that means, as soon as you get all your data put into here, you have to close this screen before you can continue working on the application. Let's go to the next thing over. If you have an event that's going to repeat more than one time, and this is where you say, for example, it repeats once every month or once every day or whatever, you can pick a drop down here and you can have up to 12 different things like months, days, whatever. Come over here and you're picking 12 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, months, years, whatever it is, how it functions for you. The next thing is a drop down list that you can add here. And what we can do is we can add a different event, and we can edit these where it says property 1, 2, and 3 by saying edit. And then with this dialog, we can go ahead and put in whatever we want to put in there. And you can have any number of them that will fill the space in there. You can add it, and then it'll be the line up here, and then you can put a comment on the other side. If you want to remove it, you can click on the orange circle with an X in it, and that'll remove it from the list. And at this particular case, I can actually go in there now, and I can type something, and I can put test, and then I can put over here, OK. And you can see how I can add something in there if you just add something as a blank field and then go ahead and add stuff to it. The next thing we're going to look at, and you can have your own convention for this, but I suggest what you do is the first thing you want to do is you want to look in and see if you have a customer that's currently in the database. There were 4 sample records that were added to the database, 1 through 4 in this case for the different names. I'm going to pick myself. And what it's going to do, since it's a current record, it's going to put the correct ID in here. It's going to put all the information for me in here. Now these are not editable. If I click on them, they won't do anything. But this screen where comments are at for notes, it will add notes and it'll put them in the customer file. So if you had, for example, put a date in here and then you put an event or something in here that you wanted to see on the far side of this application in the customer screen, it would be added to the notes and vice versa. If you add something to the notes in the customer screen for that customer, it will show up on this screen. Now the next thing I wanted to show you when I was talking about conventions is you want to be able to add the name of the person you're actually working with. So I'm going to put in my own name. And what would be the event that I'm going to do? In this case, I'm testing this app, and I'm going to put in there testing this app. The next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put either a priority, of kind of a low priority, a medium, or a high priority. If I want to send this to anybody other than myself, there could be a long list of people I could have added in here, but I'm going to go ahead and say I want to go send one to the project manager. It's already in Lucy's screen because Lucy has to check it so that it shows there. And I'm going to take out the administrator. You can see that I'm the administrator and I added it, so it's putting my contact thing up here. Like you see administrator here, it's showing me admin. If Lucy had done it, then Lucy would show up there. If it was the project manager, then project would show up there. Now, the next thing we want to do is give it an icon. In this particular case, I'm going to say that we're doing an activity as opposed to an event. And what this activity is, we're testing the application. Then we're going to go down and we're going to pick a date out of the calendar. Now this can have either European or US dates, and when you get the application you need to signify which date you want. So in this case we already have the 13th in there, and I'm going to say this is a one-day event, and I'm going to say during that one-day event it's going to start at 9 a.m. and it's going to finish at 12 p.m. And actually, let's kind of be weird. Let's say 12:15 just so we can have a different thing. And now it puts in 12:15. Now at the bottom of the screen, there's an area down here where you can add a description of something or an event that is going to occur. And in this case, I could put testing is what we're doing today. In this case, now we know what is going on as far as the event is concerned. If I want to add some additional information there, you'll see when this screen is reopened, it'll actually have an area in there for notes. We're now in a new appointment. What we're going to do now is we're going to leave here and then come back in and look at the view and the edit. So let's close this, and you can see now that this all shows in the calendar. And it's the 11th event for this calendar. It was put in by admin. It's low priority. It starts on this date at this time, finishes on this date at this time. It's an activity. This is what we put in for the test. And now we have some new things that have shown up here. What this is that thing I was referring to where a developer can add something. And in this particular case, what I've done is I've added a further clarification of things that are going on that you can add to. So what I'm going to say is, and on the iPad, it's only going to allow you to scroll in here. But with this thing that's underlined, if you see a header that's underlined, that means that there's another screen that is tied to this list that allows you to go in and add another event or something in this list that you can use in the list that does not scroll correctly on or allow you to edit on the iPad, but will allow you to edit on the PC or Mac. Now in this particular case, I'm going to just go ahead and put in, well, let's say site inspection. And I'm going to give it a priority. Let's say I want it to be priority 5. It's not that important, so it's kind of a cool thing in a blue. But if this were a hotter item, like a priority 1, it's going to be priority 1 red. And what's going to happen is that if you look in the week calendar, you can see that you've got it in the week calendar. And if you go back to the daily calendar, on a daily basis, for all the events that are occurring for your day, you can assign a priority to whatever they are, between 1 and 5. So it's cooled down in 2 and 3, it's a little less. It's green, and 4, it's kind of an off color, and then 5, it's a cool. So you can see that you can add your own individual things in here as far as priority and so forth. And as you notice from what I told you before, the underlight now is in here because we have an event on this day. So we have an underline in here, and it's current day. It's the same day as I'm putting them in. If it were not, it would be a blue day here, and the green day would be moved through the calendar for the current day. And if I completed this activity, you can watch this, it draws a line through it as completed, saying that it signifies that it is no longer an open event or activity. I'm going to take it out again. Now I do not suggest, even though it's here, to delete items on a calendar unless it is a total mistake and you want to get rid of it. It gives you the option to get rid of it. Now if this were the next day or the prior day and I did not complete this, so for example if I went to the next day and it was not in the calendar, well, as soon as this day is actually the day in the calendar that is by your machine, it will put an expired date in here. If it was completed without not actually completing it, it would show that it was in the expired over here on this side of the screen, like we saw in the administrator screen calendar. These are events that have expired that were not concluded. And the only way to get rid of these is actually go into the record, bring up the record itself, and now you're seeing the edit appointment screen. And I want to show you what you can do in here. Like we put testing before, I'm going to add testing, but this is on a different event, an activity for a test record. But I want to show you what it did. It added a subtask. You can assign it a start and end date and a title, and it'll give it a number. And you can also run a work log. In a work log, if you're going to use the work log, you put a number of hours in here. So like if I put in 20 hours, that means that this thing should last for 20 hours. And you'll see it created a bar up on the top up here. If I created a user in this screen by adding a record, this would be for me, since I'm the current person in this record on this date, I can put in the title. I can say test. And I'm doing a test, and I took, say, 12 hours to do the test. In this case, it's going to say, well, let's go, doop, cannot be found, it has been deleted. Okay, so I put in 12, and what happened is you can see out of the 20 up here, it's now saying we're 60% complete. This is a nice way to track events to see if the event itself has been completed. Let's go back over to notes. If I wanted to add a note in here, I can go over to this and click on where it says notes. And now there's one note in here. And I can say my progress. For example, did test 1, complete. So now that I've got that in there, I've got a record of what I did on this event for the time that was on the clock for the 60%. So you can see there's a lot of nice little things you can do in here. And if you wanted to get rid of this, say you didn't want it anymore, go ahead and click here. If you want to replace it with something else, you can see it was admin on this date that created it at this time and did this event. It'll automatically clock and date it for you. And that's what we completed in this area. Let's go ahead now and go back to the close. And in this particular case, it's still shown as an old event. How would I fix that? I could go in here and just show you something I can do to make it a current event if I wanted to re-liven it. I can go back in and I can say I'm in 2015, I'm in March, and I want to do this, say I want to do it on the 23rd, and I want to take and do this into March, and I wanted to make it 2015 on the 23rd. And now what's happened, you'll see when I go back over to the other side, close it, it dropped it off the expired, and now it makes an active item on the 23rd. If I go to the 23rd, now you can see that the actual thing that I just did on a test record is now assigned to the 23rd. So that I can show it complete, I'm going to go ahead and show it complete and put a line through it. So these are the kind of things you can do within this area. The last thing I want to cover is a little bit about users. So let's pop over to users. I'm going to have to slide down to show you this. Under users, what we're doing here is you can add them, and this you have to have an administrator password level in order to do this. You would add by clicking in the plus sign here, which is explained under the support thing here. If I click this for help, it's going to tell me how to do all this kind of stuff over here. And we're just going to show you Lucy May for the reason we're in here. You can add a picture, you can put a signature in, you can go ahead and by clicking this it'll say insert a picture and insert the information. Now Lucy's name was added first, her last name, her login would be her login, and you can add some additional stuff and change it if you want to. Now this is case sensitive, so when you're putting it in here you have to be careful that you put the correct case in and let the person know that's logging in to use that case. This is a user instead of an administrator. If it were an administrator, they would have more rights to do different things. You can put their email in. Now, what this allows you to do is if you do add the email, I don't suggest that you do this because it can be a real nuisance to the person. Every time one of her events changes or is modified, it would send her an email saying that it's been changed. That can be a real hassle for the person themselves. Okay, they're an active person. If you uncheck this, they will not get any mail. They will not be an active person in the project. And then we can go in here and add their password before we leave. Once you put the password in, that would be their login to get into this application if they were in multi-user, or if they were on an iPad and they had to log into their own account to see their own information, they would have to log in with their username and password that you assigned them. Okay, this covers everything I want to cover in this screen. Now you can see I try to get out of here. You have to click close in order to get out, and then you pull it back down. You can see those are the people that are in here. You click back on calendar and come back to the actual screen we're working in before. Okay, now that you have the information on how to use this screen, if you need any more data as far as the actual calendar, click on the question mark and follow any of the information in the tutorial that is for this particular screen. If you need help from us, you can click on support here and it'll take you to our support site. The video help icon is the one that you'll use in order to run this video so you can see the things that we're trying to show you in this video. Okay, thank you for taking this video.